Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Exploring the Ocean by the Seat of Your Pants. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I will be your host for today. And we're really excited to kick things off this week. It's day one of over 50 events celebrating our ocean with different scientists and explorers from all over the world, and of course, thousands and thousands of students joining us. Very excited to be hosting Roger Horrocks today. He's an underwater cinematographer who specializes in sequences for wildlife documentaries and features. He's best known for his work on BBC's Blue Planet 2, and he was one of the principal camera team members. He has extensive filming and diving experience in underwater environments, from freshwater delta systems in Africa to the tropical seas off Costa Rica and the cold reaches of the Antarctic. So Roger, it is so great to have you joining us and kicking things off today.
Hey Joe, thanks. It's awesome to be here with everyone.
All right, awesome. Well, as I mentioned, we've got classrooms joining us live from Canada and the United States, and we're going to have more classrooms who are joining us on YouTube as well. Any classrooms joining on YouTube, feel free to use the YouTube chat sidebar. Let us know where you're watching from and send in some questions, and we'll work some of them in. But that's enough for me. Roger, you've got the good stuff today, so you're welcome to take over.
Okay, Joe, thanks. So can everyone see me now? Correct. They can see me talking to them.
Yep, you're the focus now.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, everyone. So yeah, it's fantastic to be here. I've put together a PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to talk you through a little bit about what I do, what it is to be an underwater cinematographer, a wildlife cameraman, and then I want to show you some clips if they're going to show properly and some images, and then we can answer questions in a while. So I'm just going to put the screen on and put the PowerPoint presentation up. Just give me a sec. Okay, so that's that, and there we go. Share. How's that?
I see me. We just need you to pull up the presentation.
All righty, there we go. Can you see that?
We got it. We're ready.
All right, great. So, as Joe said, I'm basically an underwater cinematographer. And really what that means is that my job is to go into the ocean as part of a team and capture the wildlife that exists there in a way that is exciting and emotive and that really engages people who are actually going to watch it on television or at the movies, like on a Disney movie. So the interesting thing specifically about wildlife and about the type of work that I do is that the animals are the stars. Okay, so we very rarely work on programs where they're people. It's just the animals. And to give you a sense of how long these programs take, it's generally about 4 to 5 years to produce something like Blue Planet 2. There's generally about a year of research, trying to find the stories and looking, doing a lot of research as to where to potentially film and what time of year. Then the series generally allocate about 2 to 3 years of filming, and they'll be sending out multiple camera teams over that period. So often we'll have like 2 shots at it, because a lot of the things that we're trying to film often only happen like once a year. So we need 2 years in case the first year it doesn't happen. And then generally after that, there's about another year where the producers of the film take all the footage and they put all the material together. They have to do the voiceover, they have to write the script, and of course they have to do the music, because the music all has to be is original music. And within that context, for me as a cameraman, as part of that team, I'm generally on shoots for about 3 to 6 weeks. So I'll leave my home in Cape Town and I'll travel to, say, Costa Rica, and I'll be based there for 3 to 4 weeks. And in that period, I will try and capture about 5 minutes of usable footage in that entire period. So just to give you some sense of what it means to, when I say blue chip or these high-end programs, I know Blue Planet 2 recently aired in America. I'm not sure how many of you saw it or got a chance to see it. but it was a big six 1-hour series that was produced out of Britain, but it covered the whole world. And I'm just going to play a little bit of some of the material just to give you a sense of what it is that I do and the kind of material we try and capture.
The ocean, the largest habitat on Earth. A generation ago, the series The Blue Planet took us beneath the waves. But now we know so much more. Take a deep breath. Open your mouth wide. The universe inside. And while the ocean moves, it's what keeps me alive.
Okay, so that was just some of the footage from Blue Planet 2, and as I said, that took 5 years to make, and covered animals from all over the various oceans in our world. Then another program, apart from television series, the other thing that we as underwater cinematographers work on are features. So another series that I've been working on with a number of my colleagues is Disney Nature Blue, which is a feature film which is going to come out in theaters. And it basically tells the story of a young dolphin. And again, I'm going to show you a little bit of the trailer.
Let the waves flow to the shore. Let the wind dance on your front door. This world is a part of me. In 2018, Disney Nature invites you to follow Echo as he learns how to survive and find his place in this extraordinary world. This must be Disney Nature's Dolphins. Earth Day 2018.
Oops. Alrighty, so I think that gives you, that's the kind of material that we spend a lot of time trying to get. And Joe mentioned earlier, the interesting thing, people often think that you work, they think of you diving in the Caribbean and the water's really clean. But to be honest, we kind of work everywhere. Wherever there's water and there's animals, we'll work. So this is actually an image in Botswana. This is the Okavango Delta. And it's one of the only estuary systems and river systems that actually flows into a desert and ends in a desert. And we've done quite a lot of filming in the papyrus systems there. This again is filming. This was for another feature with elephants. So filming elephants. Down in Antarctica, really, really cold, and lots of amazing wildlife down there. So we get to go down there as well. And that's one of the key things, is you need to develop skills to work in all these different kinds of watery environments. So of course, there's, my job is basically to capture the imagery, but you're always part of a team. So probably the most important relationship is with your producer. So your producer is like the film director. He's the person, or she's the person that's actually making the film, the 1 hour film, or the feature. And as a cameraman, as a cinematographer, it's really my responsibility to take his story and provide him with the visuals that will make his story as impressive and as emotional as possible. So that's really my key responsibility, or our key responsibility as a camera person. And that relationship is really important. So we generally get together in the field, but then, of course, back at the office, you've got researchers that will find the stories for you. You'll have a dedicated team of people that will book all the flights and do all the logistics to make sure that all your equipment gets there. When we travel, it's not uncommon to travel with, 15 to 20 cases each. So you can imagine when we arrive at the airport and the check-in people see us with all this luggage, and they generally, they freak out. But that's kind of a key part of our job, is traveling with a lot of luggage and getting all that luggage safely to the various locations. And that's really the team. It's a small team. And then, of course, on location, you tend to work with local experts, people that know the waters and can put you in the right place and can help you achieve what you want to do. So a lot of people have asked me, how did I become an underwater cameraman? How did I learn the craft? Well, I didn't, when I was at school, like you guys are, I mean, there were only really 3 professions. It was either a lawyer, doctor, or accountant. The internet didn't exist when I was at school. So, it's crazy to think that, but essentially those were my options. So it was only later in my life that I actually met this man, and his name is Didier Noiro, and he was Jacques Cousteau's cameraman. And I don't think that many of you will know Jacques Cousteau, but he was one of the great pioneers of underwater ocean exploration. So I met Didier in 2007, and we worked together off the coast of South Africa, documenting the sardine run, which is this phenomenon where you get these sardines that come together and the birds hunt them and the sharks hunt them. And we struck up a friendship, and he then invited me to go up to the Okavango Delta to basically film Nile crocodiles, which he'd done before, but it was kind of a new thing and quite dangerous. So this was really one of my key introductions into this world, was to go up with Didier and to actually film these crocodiles. And I think the key point that I want to make is that it's very important, if you want to get into what I do, to meet the right people. It's really through your relationships with people in the industry that you get opportunities to work on location and to learn. So you can go to university, which I strongly encourage, or you can do courses online. I think studying is an excellent thing, and I mean I still keep studying all the time. And you could do a biology degree, but ultimately you have to actually go and work for a production company and start to get to know people and find a position in that organization. And this is an image of Didier filming the Nile crocodile, and we actually ended up making a film for Animal Planet, which was called Into the Dragon's Lair. And again, I'm just going to show you a clip just to give you a sense of what it's like to be underwater cameraman or cinematographer in this kind of wild context. Diving in the Okavango Delta is unlike anything I've experienced before. The water is kryptonite green. It's cold. The current moves quite fast, and it's 3-dimensional. As you drift down the channel, there is this overriding realization that hidden within all of this are these dangerous animals that you're looking for, but you can't see them. And that just makes the whole experience more scary. As we get into the main channel, we see an area where a crocodile has come into the water. Didier frames up, and a huge crocodile swims right through frame. And then something we could never have expected. Another crocodile right below. This huge crocodile stirs up the sediment, and as Didier turns, he sees the other crocodile that swam above him, which is coming behind for a closer look. For a tense moment, they face off. And then the big croc swims down current. I was terrified. Okay, so yeah, I hope that gives you a sense of you know, what it is to be a wildlife cameraman, and yeah, I'm open for any questions that anyone might have.
All right. Well, first of all, Roger, that was tremendous. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your work life with us. It's a little bit different than the doctors and the lawyer options that you were talking about before.
Cool.
Quick question before we meet the classrooms. If you had to do an estimate of the time you spend in the field each year, what would it be?
It's roughly 150 to 180 days.
All right. Awesome. And you get to see some pretty amazing places, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's meet some classrooms. Let's start off. I'm going to go to Mrs. Papineau's grade 1 and 2 class joining us in Geraldtown, Ontario. Let me turn their microphone on. Just give me a moment. Hey, grade 1 and 2s, how are you?
We're good. Say hi.
Hi. Hi, guys.
All right, who has a question? Nice and loud.
Is it hard for you to do your job? Is your job hard?
I think it's I enjoy my job, but there are definitely aspects, there are things that are very, very hard about it. And strangely enough, one of those things is just that we have to wait a lot. So sometimes when you're filming out in the ocean, you know, I might be out 10 hours a day for like 3 weeks and only get to film for 10 minutes.
All right, so a lot of work, a lot of preparation for really a lot of waiting sometimes.
Yeah.
But then I'm sure it's worth it when you see the finished product and you see your work up there.
It is, but the other thing, which is often we fail. You know, we go on shoots and we're there and we don't get the behavior we want. So you've got to be quite, you've got to be very patient and very calm if you're going to do this job. And you can't be scared of failing.
All right, that's another excellent point. Let's see, let's go to Asheville, North Carolina this time. We have grade 2s joining us with Mrs. Werthiem. Let me turn her microphone on. Good morning, North Carolina. How are you? All right, who's got a question?
Did you ever get hurt while doing your job?
It's a very good question. I've never been hurt by the animals that I film. And the interesting thing is that none of my colleagues have ever been badly injured by the animals that they're working with. But I have been injured by, you know, falling on a boat and things like that. But no, never from the animals.
All right, great question. Let's take a trip to Bowmanville, Ontario, here in Canada with Mrs. DeMille's grade 2-3 class. Let me turn their microphone on.
Move it, Boston, move it.
Good morning, Ontario. How are you?
Good. Good morning. Hello. Good morning.
All right, who's got a question?
Boston has a question. Hey, Boston, say your question, buddy.
Is it scary when you go underwater?
Boston, it depends on the context. When you're diving with crocodiles, I can tell you it's really, really scary, and it doesn't get any easier. But you know, in other circumstances, when I'm diving with dolphins, it can be a very beautiful experience. And so it really just depends on how deep you're going and the kind of animal that you're filming.
All right, and I think I've talked to lots of people who work in the same industry, and it's good to have that little bit of fear, isn't it?
No, completely, Joe. I mean, if you're not afraid, you're going to take unnecessary risks. So it's very important to have a fear that you can control. No, it's really good.
All right, let's see. Let's go to Freehold, New Jersey this time. We've got some grade 5s with Mrs. Kaiser. Let me turn their microphone on. Good morning, grade 5s.
What type of safety gear do you wear while you're diving?
Well, we don't actually wear any safety gear, but we do follow a lot of safety precautions. So, for example, I don't have it here, but I carry like a little, it's like a little satellite GPS thing on my belt. So if I get lost at sea, I can release that, and then the guys can come and find me. And I've actually used that twice. It saved my life twice.
All right, great question. It sounds like a pretty solid piece of equipment to have with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Guelph, Ontario. So not too far from me. Mrs. Furnival's grade 3s are joining us. Let me turn their mic. Actually, Mrs. Furnival, I need you to turn the microphone on for me, and then the boys and girls can say hi.
All right, go ahead, Lucien.
Have you discovered any other species that most of us haven't discovered?
I haven't personally discovered any species, but what we did do for Blue Planet 2 was that with a colleague of mine in Cape Town, we basically documented a behavior with an octopus that had never ever been, that was unknown to science. And the behavior is where when the octopus is attacked by a shark, it picks up like 100 shells and covers itself in like Iron Man, in like a suit to protect itself. So that was a behavior that was unknown to science before we filmed it.
All right, great question. Let's see, Mrs. Sandberg in Pemberville in the United States, a grade 3 classroom. Let me turn your microphone on. Oh, you've got it for me already. Hey, grade 3s, how are you?
Good.
Good. Before your question, where's Pemberville? Which state?
Northern Ohio.
Ohio. Awesome.
Ohio. Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
How long have you been doing this?
Okay, so I've been working for 12 years as an underwater cinematographer, a wildlife cameraman, and I've been free diving and spearfishing and diving for 25 years.
All right, let's see. Mrs. Gervin's group, they're joining us in Gap. I think it's in Virginia, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong. It's a grade 5 classroom. And there we go. Morning, grade 5s.
Morning.
Am I right? Is it Virginia? No. Where are you?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Go ahead with your question.
What kind of what do you do to keep warm when you're in really cold water?
Okay, so I've probably got about 9 or 10 different wetsuits. So when we're diving, like in Egypt and the Red Sea, where the water is really warm, I wear literally like a lycra wetsuit to protect yourself from all the stings, and the sun. But it literally is, it's very, very thin. And then when you go to Antarctica, you wear a dry suit, which actually means that you've got very warm undergarments and clothes, and the water doesn't actually get inside, and you stay dry like that. So it really depends on where you are, but you also don't want to be too hot or nor too cold. So you've got to have, it's exactly like getting dressed for different temperatures outside. We do the same thing underwater.
Okay, and before we visit our final live classroom, just a reminder to anyone who's watching live on YouTube, feel free to use the YouTube chat sidebar and fire off a question or two. Let us know where you're watching from. But we're going to jump to Mrs. Krakas's grade 7 students, and they are joining us in Brampton, Ontario. And I'll just need you to help me out and turn your microphone on. It's just off of my screen today. Hey, grade 7s, how are you?
Have you ever encountered a geological danger?
Just sorry, repeat that.
Louder. Have you ever encountered a geological danger?
A geological danger. I have. I tell you what I have done is I have done some pretty deep cave diving where you go, deep underwater down to 100 meters inside like a cave system. So it's not that the geology of the thing is intentionally trying to hurt you, but you can get lost in there and it's dark. And yeah, I've had a few scary moments inside those kind of geological features. If that answers your question.
All right, I think so. And that was a great round of questions from all of our classrooms. And since we have time, I'm going to open things up. If you come up to the camera and give me a wave, I'll know to pick your class and we'll visit you for a follow-up question. So let's see, who'd like to come up? Oh, I see hands in most of the classrooms. So oh, there we go. That's an easy one. Let's start in Mrs. Gervin's class. Let me turn their microphone back on. All right, we're ready.
What is your favorite film that you've ever made?
Sure, it's a really good question. I think the one in terms of the work that I've done, the one that I'm probably the most proud of is the Disney film that's coming out. I think it's actually going to come out on Disney are launching a new channel to compete with Netflix. So it's going to come out on that. But Into the Dragon's Lair was a film that we made, which was quite a personal film, and I'm very proud of that one as well. But I think, yeah, from a cinematography perspective, that and Blue Planet are the ones that I'm most proud of.
All right, and then this could be a good time to ask where you're heading next. What's your next adventure?
Well, I'm actually going to be heading up to the Sardine Run in South Africa, which is nice. So I'll be home for a bit, and that's that. I discussed it earlier. It's where I met Didier, which is where the sardines migrate and all the sharks come in. So I'm going to be spending 3 weeks up there in June and July.
All right, incredible. Very jealous. I've seen lots of clips in various documentaries and such, and it just looks incredible. So much action with the birds from above and sharks and dolphins coming in from the sides, even big whales scooping up from the bottom. It just sounds incredible. Looks amazing.
Yep.
All right, let's see who's giving me a wave. Mrs. Sandberg, let me turn your microphone on.
How long does it take you to go underwater?
Okay, really good question. So if we sometimes we free dive, so we have to hold our breath, and I can kind of do, if with a camera, like 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, which is probably that's a good time to stay under. On scuba, which is when you've got the scuba tank on your back, you're normally limited, depending on depth and how hard you're working, to around 45 minutes to an hour. And if you're really shallow, maybe 2 hours. But we use these special things called rebreathers, which allow you to recycle the air. And on that, I can stay down for like 6 hours.
That's awesome. And it takes a lot of training, doesn't it, to use the rebreathers?
Yeah, they're actually quite simple, but they're quite dangerous as well. So you've got to be really careful and, keep an eye on the controls all the time.
All right, great question. Oh, there we go. I see another class waving at me. Let's go back to Freehold, New Jersey. Your microphone's on.
Have you ever gotten hurt while exploring the ocean?
No, I haven't. I haven't been hurt by the animals, but yeah, I have. I have hurt myself falling on the boat, and a friend of mine actually he fell off the mast and broke his back. So those are the kinds of dangers that you encounter. But fortunately, I haven't been hurt by any of the animals yet, and I don't think I will.
What about with any of your gear? Any close calls with gear malfunctioning or anything like that?
No, I've been really fortunate with my gear, and it's a good point, Joe. There's a saying in technical diving, dive cheap, dive cheap, die cheap. So you really have to put a lot of energy into making sure your equipment's the best you can get, and it's well serviced, and that really helps. So fortunately, touch wood, no close calls on that front.
Excellent. Mrs. Furnival and Guelph, if you want to turn the microphone on, I think I see someone in a red shirt.
How many different types of animals have you worked with?
Sure, really good question. I'd say off the top of my head, I've probably worked with and filmed extensively, probably 20 to 30 different animals. Species, but the ones that I've done the most with have been dolphins. I've kind of specialized in dolphins over the last 3-4 years. I think I've spent close to 250 days filming dolphins over the last 4 years.
All right, amazing. And I'm sure you've seen lots of evidence of their intelligence while you're down there with them. Yeah,
really smart. They can catch prey really easily, and they're incredibly social animals. And I mean, they're mammals, so they have a mammalian consciousness, and really smart. Yeah, really smart.
All right, Mrs. Krakasis class, if you don't mind turning your microphone on for me.
How does your lifestyle change according to where you go?
Okay. So one thing you have to get used to when you do my job is you kind of go away from home for like 3 weeks, and you're with a small group of people like day and night. And generally we on boats. So you're living on a boat offshore, or you spend a huge amount of time on the boat. So it's very intense and very focused. And then when I come back home, I've got my family, and it's very, very different. But the nice thing is that I can spend, I'm not working specifically when I'm back, so I can spend time with them. We can do things together. So it's quite nice. I like that balance.
All right, awesome, good question. Let's see. Mrs. Wertheim in North Carolina, you're grade 2s. I can't see you guys, but I'm going to guess you might have another question. So if you do, your microphone is on.
Hi, thank you. Yes, we do have another question. Olivia, would you like to go?
Have you ever seen animals fight in violence?
Go up to the microphone. Could you hear her?
No.
Got it. Yep. Did you hear that, Roger?
No.
Oh, it was, have you ever seen animals fighting?
Yes, I have. I've seen dolphins fighting. So dolphins fight a lot. I've seen, what else have I seen fighting? I've seen whales kind of fighting. I've seen sharks fighting. But dolphins, yeah, as I say, I spent a lot of time with dolphins, and they fight a lot.
All right, back to Mrs. DeMille's class. I see someone in a nice green shirt.
Okay, Alex, come on.
Have you ever ran out of air in your air tank?
Okay, well, I probably shouldn't admit to this, but yes, I have.
Is it scary?
Is it scary?
Well, the thing is I had my dive assistant with me, and he carries backup gas. So I kind of know that, you know, if I do run out of gas, he's right there and he can help me. So there was one situation where I got very focused on the thing that I was filming, and that's always a challenge, you know, when you task loaded underwater. And yeah, I didn't run out of gas on the bottom, but coming up on the deco stop, I ran out of gas. So my buddy was there to help me out.
All right. Well, that's good. And that's another good point about diving is you dive with a buddy, and then you've got someone there for a situation, for a malfunction, or if you get distracted.
Exactly.
All right. Who haven't we visited yet? Is there somebody, a classroom we haven't visited, who might still have a question? Have we been to Mrs. I don't know if we've been to Mrs. Papano's class again. Do you guys have another question?
What is it? Do you see hippo? Okay, has he ever seen a hippo?
Oh, good one. Roger, when you were in the Okavango, did you ever see a hippo while you were filming the crocodiles?
That's such an excellent question. The thing that we were most wary and scared of wasn't, I mean, the crocodiles were scary, but the hippos are even more scary. So there was one incident where Didier and I got in, we saw like a bubble. We thought it was a crocodile that had got into the water. It was actually a hippo, but fortunately it was a small one. The hippo got a fright, we got a fright, and we got out the water really quickly. But you're dead right. That is a serious animal, and wow, I'm not going to dive with those guys if I can help it. No chance.
All right. Well, I think we hit every classroom again, which is awesome. So boys and girls, thank you so much. We had a great full house today. There's some great questions. And I think maybe we can squeeze one more question in before the end of our hangout today. So is there a class that has one more question? Oh, I see so many hands in Mrs. Sandberg's classroom, so I better go back there.
Have you ever almost gotten really hurt so badly? Like, have you ever almost broken a leg?
I've never broken a leg, and I've never got bent. I haven't had any decompression sickness. So yeah, I've been really fortunate in that regard, and I haven't been attacked by any of the animals. So far, touch wood, all good.
So I think that's a good point. That question's come up a few times today. People wondering about getting hurt, especially with the animals. And Roger, I'm sure you filmed with lots of sharks, and you probably haven't had too many instances where you felt worried, have you?
No, I think if you're confident in the water, and that's the interesting thing, what differentiates what we do, what's different with us as cameramen, you know, when you're filming from a car or on land, you're generally quite a long way from the animal, whereas underwater we have to get really close. The only way we can film them is the animals have to come to us. So it's it's very important to have a relationship with them, and I've very rarely felt like that animal wants to hurt me. And yeah, it's the riskiest thing is actually driving to the launch site. That is probably the most dangerous thing you can do on these shoots, unless you're being really stupid.
All right, that's such a good point. We see so much media looking at marine life, especially sharks, as these dangerous creatures, but in reality, if you're careful, you plan well, that it's actually very manageable, and they're not out looking for you. So I think that's a great point.
Correct.
All right. And I guess we'll visit, because someone's waving like crazy, Mrs. Krakas's group again. So we'll visit one more time, then we'll sign off for today. So if you guys, grade 7s, if you want to turn the microphone on for us.
Well, how do you use the washroom when you're underwater?
Okay, so very, very good question. Okay, the most important thing is you got to go to the toilet first thing in the morning before you get on the boat. Okay, so that's key. But otherwise, yeah, you just basically go to the back of the boat and everyone faces to the front, and then that's it. Do your thing.
All right, fair enough. My dive instructor in Australia, that's where I learned to dive, he had a special zipper in his suit, so he didn't even have to leave the water. So he planned ahead.
No, exactly. No, I mean, planning ahead is key.
All right, excellent. Well, first of all, boys and girls, as per usual, your questions were awesome. Thank you so much for joining us in the first hangout of what's going to be a very busy and crazy week. Roger, thank you so much for sharing your work with us, sharing some stories, and really just giving us some of your time, because I'm sure you've got lots on the go. And yeah, it's always great to have exciting experts join us. So thank you so much, Roger.
No, it's a pleasure, John. Thanks, everyone. I really enjoyed chatting to you all. Thanks for the great questions as well.
All right, so let me turn the classroom microphones on, boys and girls, nice and loud. Goodbye and thank you for Roger. Then we'll sign off for today. So here we go. Microphones are coming on. You guys are good at that. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to tune in all week for more ocean events. Thanks, everyone.